Among countless notable achievements in exploration, 5 firsts achieved by our members define the legacy of the Explorers Club. 1909, the North Pole. 1911, the South Pole. 1953, the highest point on Earth, summiting Mount Everest. 1960, the lowest point on Earth, the Marianas Trench. 1969, the surface of the Moon, the Apollo 11 mission.
The club's founding mission, to promote exploration by all means possible, remains our driving force. Headquartered in New York City with a community of chapters around the world, the Explorers Club supports scientific expeditions of all disciplines and unites our members in the bonds of good fellowship. Historic flags are carried on our most distinguished expeditions. Our members are storytellers and changemakers. We are driven by the instinct to explore, forge new frontiers, and push boundaries for the scientific advancement of human knowledge. We are explorers. Together, Fjällräven and the Explorers Club inspire the world to walk with nature. Join us each month for a thought-provoking and exciting new episode featuring explorers from around the world as they share their work and stories from the field. Our goal is to push the boundaries of curiosity, explore the wild around us, and inspire new and seasoned explorers to discover nature in a new way. The sense of togetherness with nature has never been more crucial. This is the Explorers Club Fjällräven Speaker Series.
Hi, everyone. My name is Trevor Wallace. I'm an explorer, artist, and filmmaker based in Kauai. I want to acknowledge the traditional land of the Kanaka Maoli, Native Hawaiian land that I am on. I serve as the Vice President of Research and Education at the Explorers Club and help do our amazing Fjällräven Expedition Grants partnership.
Ganadzi Konetskui, Talitsin Aksamana, Talitsin Akhenipsin. Hello, good day. My name is Charlene Johnny. I am a Cowichan artist. I reside on unceded Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh territory. I do graphic design, mural art, jewelry art, and I'm also a Fjällräven guide.
Charlene, how did you get into doing visual art in the first place, and what were the inspirations for you?
I've been dabbling in art since I was a kid. There are artists in my family that paint and do realistic drawings and carving, and so all of their art were in my family's homes, and I used to pull down their pictures off the wall and try to copy them. And then I started doing art professionally in 2017 after years of apprenticing with different artists. And I went to NEC and I did a jewelry art program there. My teacher introduced us to mural art, and really since 2020 to now, my career's taken off in the painting world and the mural world. So I've just come off of doing 4 back-to-back murals. I have another one coming up tomorrow I can't talk too much about, but yeah, it's been really fun doing art in public spaces. I draw my inspiration from my people. I'm Cowichan, and so the type or the form of art that we create is Coast Salish art. It's very specific to the southern region of Vancouver Island, and Coast Salish territory stems between mid-Vancouver Island as far south as the Columbia River in Oregon, I believe. So there's different types of Coast Salish art, and yeah, I'm happy that I get to carry knowledge and and share it with youth and create art in public spaces.
Yeah, it's so awesome. I just saw the photo you posted this morning of the basketball court with the drone photos, and I remember you telling me about it, but I didn't know, like, the colors are so striking. And I was curious how the backstory of it. I know that it connects to weaving, but I would love to hear a little bit more of the backstory and the decisions and how you chose the imagery for that.
As a Coast Salish artist, I had to learn a lot about the design process on my own. One of my biggest inspirations in the Coast Salish art world is Susan Point. And so one of the things that she was like the pioneer of Coast Salish art and women in the native spaces in art. And so how she got her career started was by going to the Museum of Anthropology and studying pieces there. And one of the things that launched my career was winning a grant from the YVR airport. And they take you on a tour of the museums and stuff around here. So that's when I first started getting exposed to like really old weaving of woven blankets and like seeing weaving patterns in the museum. And then the more I became familiar with other Coast Salish artists and different practices, I started looking at different blankets that like locals from here weave. And so I've always been really fascinated by geometric designs that are incorporated into textiles, and how that is not unique to just Coast Salish peoples. It's like universal, just in the same sense that like sacred geometry is. So a lot of my inspiration is from my ancestors' Coast Salish. My Coast Salish art practices come from my ancestors, but I'm also heavily influenced by sacred geometry and how it's like a universal language. So when I was thinking about what to do for this mural, the technical aspects of getting the design on the ground in my mind needed to be something I can measure and map out. And so to me, it made sense to do a blanket design because I could measure out from the top and the bottom, or the all sides, and like basically connect the lines. And so I came up with a blanket pattern design. I used really bright colors that you can find in the sky. So yellow, orange, dark blue, and light blue, turquoise. At the center of the mural is a full moon, and that's a very common theme in my work. Ever since I can remember, I've been drawing moons. And so I did the full moon at the center, and featured around the full moon are 4 Salish eyes, which represent the 4 directions, the teachings of the medicine wheel, 4 seasons, among like other things. And then around the outsides of the moon are stars. And the way I see stars are, they're our ancestors. There are a lot of creation stories and stories that I heard growing up from the beginning of time and the first people on Earth. And when Cowicans came to Earth, all of these stories have a similar theme in that they were fallen from the sky. So when I think about where we come from and where we go before and after life, I think of the sky. So I think of our stars as our ancestors. So all together, it is a design that honors my ancestors, the 4 directions, and also in Coast Salish ceremonies, we use blankets for speakers and use blankets as gifts. So in a sense, it's a metaphorical blanket design, a metaphorical blanket for my gift to the community for sharing that space with me.
It's so awesome. And I encourage everybody to check out Charlene's social media where she has this posted. And I was really, the symmetry and how you measured it, it was just like, it's so graphic, and to think of it on such a scale, like I'd be so nervous laying down those lines that it would be like off or something like that. And I was thinking about your art, and made me think about where we, for the past decades have usually see indigenous imagery in museums, or, commodified in some way, sold. But I think it's such, kind of a newer thing, and it has a sort of a different component to it when Cowichan art and other First Nations art is in public spaces. And I would be really interested to hear you talk about that, and sort of the impacts that it has.
For me, doing murals and painting in public spaces has been one of the most rewarding and challenging things that I've had to navigate in terms of my art career. There's something about the artwork. It always starts out as being mine. I have this sense of possession, like I've created it, it belongs to me. But I've had to learn a lot too, to let go of like having possession over what I create. First of all, everything that I create that's Coast Salish art is a gift from my ancestors and mentors. So it's not something I invented. It's knowledge that I carry. And so I acknowledge that, like, everything I know has been taught to me, and everything that I know must be passed on to the next generation. So I am bridging that gap between learning, creating, and teaching all in one when I'm doing mural art, because most of these murals that I'm doing have Indigenous youth brought on as helping me. So I cannot complete a mural on my own. It's impossible. I could, but it would take a lot longer. And B, as soon as I'm done painting the mural, I feel like it no longer belongs to me, and it becomes a part of the landscape of where it's located. And so to me, it's very important that public art is created by people who are residing on that land, who are from that land, and also with diverse backgrounds, so that youth can see representation from not only just like mainstream type of artists, but people they see themselves in. And another thing that's really important for me in working on murals with youth is I get to show them that art can be a career path. I didn't really have too much encouragement growing up from people, family, teachers, anyone telling me that art is a suitable career path and you could do well. But here I am, and now I get to work with kids and show them and teach them and tell them that this is something they can do.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's so amazing how your work kind of transcends as well, just like, the idea of just doing commissions or making art for clients. Your audience and the people that it belongs to is the community. And it seems like the subject matter reflects that, and the sense of place is imbued in that. And, everything I've seen from your art, it feels like it's art, but it's also advocacy, and it's also history, and it deals with identity in these ways that it's, obviously not just a pretty picture, which I really appreciate.
Yeah. Everything that I create comes with intention, and a lot of every single image that I create has a story behind it. And sometimes I don't even realize the stories or the power or the intentions behind things and creating it until I'm done, and I step back and I look at that bigger picture. And then depending on where I am or who's involved, I'll get lessons from elders and other community members who have more knowledge than I do. So a lot of times I feel that also mural art in public spaces sparks conversations that might not have been started in the first place, especially in like smaller towns where Indigenous art isn't so prominent. I mean, I'm in Vancouver right now, so I'd like to say that the art scene here is massive, and there's Indigenous art all around the city, and it's taken years for this urban hub to get to where we are. But I think we need to lead the way and set the examples for smaller towns that creating Indigenous art in public spaces is important and integral for community.
I love as well that, you know, when in public spaces, you get the idea that it's also contemporary, that so much of the imagery that sometimes, you know, we're talking about museums, it seems like a thing of the past, so to speak, but, you know, reinterpreting, you know, putting your sensibility as a contemporary artist as well on these images, taking ancient textiles and, you know, putting them in a place like a basketball court. Or, you know, I love the project you were talking about that had to do with some of the legends associated with that particular area. So taking ancient knowledge and kind of replacing it, and then also, you know, putting it in a space that reminds people these people are here, these stories are here, these stories are connected to the land.
Yeah, I agree. And also, like, you're right about our art, and many people thinking that it's a thing of the past. Meanwhile, we're modern people with access to modern supplies, and I think that's really cool too about like community engagement. Like the stories get shared on a broader spectrum, and you know, we have technology like to help us execute these projects, like that mural I did, the basketball court. Like it was really hard to see what I was doing, so I had to have a drone operator come help me periodically throughout the project so I can get an aerial view of what I was doing. And then one of the things that she said was, after I completed the mural, that she couldn't wait until Google Maps updated and that you could see it from Google Maps. So that got me really thinking. Part of, like, literally becoming part of the landscape.
Yeah, see it from space, satellite images, got it. That's pretty awesome.
That also got me thinking about like how we as Indigenous people like don't see ourselves separate from the land and the water, and how we're a part of it. So I was really pleased with that, like knowing that I'm a part of the landscape now, not just metaphorically, spiritually, but like physically as well.
Yeah, remind me of, what was the last mural project that you did that had to do with the legends associated with that one area?
Yeah, so I did a mural earlier this summer on Salt Spring Island, and it's on the public library, and it was executed by an only Indigenous team of youth. So all of the individuals that helped on the project were between the age of 12 and 23, I believe, from the local territories. And when I was coming up with the design, they wanted to incorporate some history of the land. So I had an individual named Chris Arnett share some archives and really cool stories of Salt Spring Island, one of them being it known as a place of caution because of this two-headed serpent that lived in the bay. And it could either be your power or your demise. And so I thought that was really funny because we as Indigenous people knew how to navigate in and out of the lands, respect the environment, and take what we need and leave what we need too, offerings and whatever else. So I really wanted to honor that aspect. And so I did a double-headed serpent, which sparked so many questions when we were painting. Like every single person walked by had to ask, I had to know, like, why does that snake have two heads and what is it doing here? And then it was a chance and an opportunity to share the history. yeah, that was like one of the most rewarding mural projects I did this summer because it's the first one I did in my territory. Salt Spring Island is shared territory, including Cowichan's, which I am. And we had Sinqua dancers come and dance and sing and bless the mural. Sinqua in my language means thunderbird, which you can see here behind me. And that's a type of dance that they do. So it was I'd like to call one of those full circle moments that I've been waiting for a really long time. Because I've been wanting to bring my art into my own home territory. But yeah, doing murals has been consuming my time for the last summer. So it's nice to know that I have a little break on the horizon to come up with my next big schemes.
I'd imagine you'd have to recharge after putting all of that out there, like where, you get your energy, not just the physical aspect, because it seems like doing murals takes a lot of physical energy, but then also kind of like the, spiritual and, artistic inspiration that you need that takes a lot.
Do you want to tell me a little bit about your work?
Sure. Yeah. So for the past 4 or 5 years, I've been working in archaeology and cultural heritage, mostly from actually a connection I made at the Explorers Club. Dr. Gino Kaspari, we met there at headquarters, and he invited me to go look for tombs with him. That was his PhD. Research was mapping tombs in Central Asia, which led us on a long journey where I was creating a documentary series about this search for this lost nomadic cultures of the steppe. We're working a lot as well on the destruction of cultural heritage and how looting and the international art trade has affected these narratives that are left out of a lot of history. But it eventually led us to working in southern Siberia, excavating a royal tomb. And one of the things that presented earlier in the summer about was our collaboration with local people and how we developed the way to do this work in a manner that's culturally sensitive, as well as using the right methodologies. And then for me as a storyteller, as a filmmaker and an artist, how to include that in the story that we're telling. So I think there it was incredibly important. We have to do all this paperwork to excavate human remains, and which is obviously very sensitive, but it was important for us as well to have the dig blessed by a shaman, and we would do this every campaign. And it was actually not always certain if we would get permission, because it's a dialogue. The Algashi ceremony done is done around a fire, and it's really asking permission. So just like the permits that you apply for in Russia, you can get turned down. You can get turned down from the ancestors, but it taught me a lot. And my local colleagues working at the museum taught me a lot as well about the diversity of their views. Like, not everybody believes in all of the intricacies of how to relate to ancestors. Some have more scientific views of how to excavate, and others really believe the shamanic rituals are very important. And I, as a listener, as an outsider, it was an important experience, and one that I brought with me to where I am now in Kauai. Came here about a year ago, and during the pandemic, and was really just looking to volunteer and get involved in cultural heritage and see where I could help. And I've volunteered with a bunch of different nonprofits on island, including one I think relates really well to your work, Charlene, called Mo'olelo Murals. I've begun to collaborate with them a little bit, but they do amazing murals, community murals that tell Mo'olelo, which are the stories of the land, and have the ancient gods and some of the historical figures, and I think are really important and beautiful. So definitely check them out. But my particular project that I'm focusing on actually came from getting connected with the family who are trying to protect their ancestral burial grounds out on the west side of the island, and approached me as I have this sort of unique combination of filmmaking and advocacy and familiar with archaeological documentation. So it's been a long journey to do it right and to go slowly and correctly. And I've been learning a lot and listening a lot to the family and understanding a lot of the things I learned in Siberia don't apply here. So, the photographs I had published in National Geographic of the bones that we excavated in Siberia would never be appropriate here. Bones are kapu, they hold mana, and even exposing them to light, taking photographs is just totally off limits. And in fact, our whole project here is trying to raise awareness about how fragile the dunes are where some of these burials are. So really, it's been a process of collecting oral histories of the kupuna, the elders, of some of the stories, which are really incredible, which we've, through doing these interviews, found that the temple site behind the dunes is likely one of the origin places of hula, the dance, which communicates so much about Hawaiian culture, and has been this way as a continuation of through the chants and through the dances themselves, which is a language. So I've been working on this documentary for the past year with an amazing team on island of producers from the family, as well as local filmmakers. So yeah, I think there's a lot of sort of common threads in our goals. But I think for me, it was always important to tread carefully as an outsider and listen and absorb, and how to work alongside people and not center myself in this project, which can easily happen with filmmakers.
I'm really excited to see that project come together. I can relate and resonate with a lot of what you're saying. I have Hawaiian relatives in my family tree, and just like people across Turtle Island and across the world, like what I was talking to about before about people being part of the land, and after our time goes, we go back to the land, and it's this like cycle of being. And so I'm super fascinated by everything that you're discovering and learning and unlearning.
Definitely. It's a constant process. And I think it's always important not to think, oh, I checked off this box, I did a land acknowledgement, or I did this project, or I have this understanding, or I have these friends who support me, but always, increasingly understanding the context of these spaces that so much history has been erased. That's a kind of a center focal point of this project, because Polihale is now a state park, but a large portion of it used to be part of Mana, which was a town displaced by the sugar plantations. So the family home was like right behind where the state park sign was, but people don't know that. People see a beautiful, rugged landscape that's just absent of people, where there's so many stories and actual human remains and archaeological evidence to tell otherwise. So a big goal of the film and the work going forward is, how do you bring into the public eye that there's people, there's history here.
Yeah, you gotta give them the platform to tell their stories. When do you expect this to be released, if there is a timeline?
Yeah, so we finished a trailer of for the film back in July to mark 1 year on July 4th. Sadly, in 2020, the whole beach area and dunes were highly damaged. There were thousands of people who were off-roading, leaving trash, using the bathrooms in the dunes, not knowing at all that these were burial grounds. So that was our goal, to commemorate the year of that. And they closed the park after, but the community still didn't know why the park was closed. There were some small things put out small videos put out by DNLR and the state parks authorities, but I think they would really, they appreciated our support in creating this film, speaking directly to the community, and saying, this is why we need to take care of this. And, state resources are very little to maintain a park that's, 13 miles of beach. It's a large area with a lot of fragile areas, both, ecologically as well. There's plants that only grow on a few dunes out there. So it's really challenging, but then as well, thousands of burials. So the elites in ancient Hawaiian society were traditionally buried in caves, which are kapu, but then Makainana, the people who were not ali'i, were buried in dunes. And there are thousands of dunes. So, pretty much from our interviews, we found that, Kanaka on Kauai, if you're Native Hawaiian, some of your ancestors are probably buried there, going back to some point. So it's really everyone's ancestors that are there. Mm-hmm. And the short film really addresses the problem of of off-roading on the dunes, that they get, erosion degrades them very quickly. Leaving trash, obviously, it really hurts the lineal descendants and everyone who knows that their ancestors are there. And the marked burials, because there was a transition period where 7 of the family members of the Kilauano family that I'm working with were buried in a sort of post-Christian, post-conversion way where they were marked. So they maintain that burial area and protect it. But since then, I documented in the film where we moved boulders to protect that area so people don't drive through it and trash it, and we put up signs. But the full version of the film that we're working on now, that I hope to finish in the next 2 months or so, that'll be around 22 minutes. We want to get past just the problem and really get into the history and the depth of the significance and sacredness of this place. So the people, rather than feeling like, shamed or guilted into making the right decisions, they feel empowered that this is my, my kuleana, as they say, their responsibility to take care of it. So we've delved into some of the stories about, specifically, one piece is the aumakua of the family, the guardian animal spirit is the shark, the mano, which relates back to the idea of taking care of this area. The family believes you take care of the beach, you take care of this area, the ocean, the beach, the mountains will take care of you. So we're in the process of trying to find footage of tiger sharks from Kauai, which has proved a little challenging. We can't use licensed clips from other places because it's very specific. It's not just any shark, it's sharks from this place. Yeah. So we can't use tiger footage from the Bahamas or, Maldives or somewhere else. It has to be there, and that's important to the family, important to me. But I am a little scared about swimming with sharks and trying to get that footage. So it's, but fortunately we got a large grant that I can't publicly announce yet, a larger grant. So that'll really help us get that footage and finish the larger version of the film in the next few months.
It sounds like it's going to be an incredible opportunity. You'll have to overcome some fears. I think you'll do great, phenomenally.
Hopefully, yeah. We've heard recently some shark spottings have been in like the murky waters off of one port, and it's like we want to show how majestic and beautiful the tigers are. And I think with most scientists and biologists I've reached out to is that they are common, and they actually don't mess with humans that much. We really have made a much bigger impact on sharks as we have on many species. But they're incredible creatures. They're pelagic fish that can range, 100 miles. They're not necessarily, in Hawaii, the shark may be going from island to island hundreds of miles. So we're using everything we can, trying to reach out to scientists doing tagging and spearfishers on island who see them, and local elders who know about the movement of sharks. So yeah, it's been an amazing journey, everything from ancient temples to hula, and now to our ocean friends that we hope to showcase in the film.
That's beautiful. So when you were talking, I was reminded of a story that is actually featured right here behind me. It's a drum, and on that drum has a thunderbird capturing an orca. And so what sparked this story and reminded me of it when you were talking was when you were mentioning like the ancestors and talking about the land. And so this story goes, the Cowichan people were starving and we didn't know what was happening or why. And this has to do with out of balance ecosystem. So we didn't know what was going on. So we went to the elders in our community and they prayed to the ancestors, and the ancestors gave us the answer to our problem. And there are no problems, only solutions. So apparently there was this big orca eating up all the salmon at the mouth of the river, and he was blocking that river. So there was no more fish for us to catch and eat, and we were starving. So the ancestors said that we have to go on a journey to find this man that was banished a long time ago from our island because he possessed power that nobody really understood before, and that it was him that could save our people from starvation. So this guy was banished many years previous, and he was living in isolation on one of the islets around here, and they found him. And so when he opens his eyes and he transforms into this big so-called mythical thunderbird. And so when he opens his eyes, lightning strikes and flaps his wings, thunder and lightning crack and roar. And so he comes out of isolation, scoops up the orca, and saves the Cowichan people from starvation. And I don't know why exactly I was like thinking about that story when you were talking. It's just because like we as people on this planet might not always have the answers to things, and things that scare us that are bigger than us may not necessarily be harmful for us. So when I was thinking about you being afraid of sharks, I'm thinking that they carry powerful lessons and stories for you, and that like through your experiences with them will then you'll find out that it's not actually a fear that you should carry, but a power that you need to learn to understand.
Yeah, that definitely connects. And I think it's such a striking story. And I think there's some interesting symbolism as well from like the outsider that can help the community. And I think oftentimes, as artists, oftentimes we're outsiders. We think differently, we see things differently. But then bringing the art and this imagery, the creative gifts and inspiration back can be so powerful. And I think that Thunderbird story shows that well. And yeah, I mean, I've heard the family has the Kilowanos who I've worked with and continue to work with have encouraged me. They say that the Aumakua is like a family member. It shouldn't be something that could be feared because it's family. So I think, although, I'm aware that these are large, dangerous predators. Sometimes I think about it when I'm surfing, and I just think, in the back of my head, like, you got to get that feeling that there's something there. But in the process of doing this work, which I feel like is a responsibility as well. I think, for me, moving to a place where I'm not from here, this is, not my culture, that is truly Polynesia, and then looking into the overthrow of the Hawaiian kingdom of Queen Liliuokalani and understanding, the significance of the overthrow of the Hawaiian kingdom is how can, as a visitor in this place, as a person here for a short amount of time, how can I give back? You know, how can I, because it is so beautiful, because it is so so giving, the land and the people are so giving. How can I do a small part in contributing to a place that is, you know, so abundant and so striking?
I feel the exact same way about giving back to the land. So one of the cool things that I got to do with Fjällräven this past spring was create a window display. And in the end, we wound up auctioning them off. And I got to choose a charity to put the proceeds towards. And I made sure I chose a local Squamish language revitalization program, and realized that I also can't always center myself in everything that I do, because I'm not on my home territory. So I want to make sure that I am like treading respectfully on unceded territories here of my Coast Salish relatives, Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh people. Were here first. This is their land, and we're all lucky to live, play, and work on their territory, because Vancouver is like exceptionally beautiful. So I always make sure that even though I'm a Coast Salish Indigenous woman living on these lands, that I'm not always centering myself either. We have to give back to the communities that take care of us.
I mean, which is a lot, because your art itself, I mean, I'm sure you know this, your art itself is a huge gift. You know, your public art, it is giving back in itself, that, you know, but also to support and be intentional about the way that you support the community is really awesome. And I think is, yeah, just like we were saying before, it's you know, it's an ongoing process, and no matter who you are, it matters, and everybody can do something to acknowledge the land that we're on and do something to bring those stories alive and keep those stories alive.
Yeah, I agree.
So I just wanted to say how amazing it has been to talk with you, Charlene. And it's just, I feel like I've just scraped the surface on learning about all your work and the stories and the beautiful images. So I encourage everyone watching and listening to check out her work, her social media, and follow along as she produces more incredible artwork. And for my projects, it's been a real honor to share on behalf of the Hui Malama Polahali and the community and family that I'm working with here. So feel free to follow their social media, check out the work online if you want to support. It's a 501c3 nonprofit, and hope to be bringing a film to you all soon. Please check out the trailer if you have time. And thank you so much to Fjällräven, who's a great partner of the Explorers Club, which has been a life-changing organization for me. So thanks again.
In my language, we say Haitzepka to many people and Haichka to one individual. So I just want to say Haichka for your time and sharing your knowledge and doing the work that you do. It's got me really excited, and I can't wait to see that project and all of your projects come together. And Haitzepka to all of our listeners. It's been really great.